This is a data privacy detective. Today, we're going to talk about cookies and tracking and personal data and compliance with the law in this area. It's a very complicated subject, and we have a wonderful guest this morning, Mira Suleymanova. Mira, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having us, Joe.
Well, this is great. Now, you're an international legal expert in international and privacy law. You're talking to us today from a beautiful city of Vienna, Austria, and you're part of a company called JENTIS, which we're going to talk about. But there at JENTIS, you're responsible for all legal issues, data protection compliance, legal strategy for a very interesting company, JENTIS. So we're so happy to have you. And what is JENTIS? Tell us about it.
Well, JENTIS is an Austrian startup that is basically providing a software as a service in data capturing. And we are making sure that website providers and website owners are able to leverage on the quality of data and build trust with their users at the same time.
Let's start this way. What's a cookie? Now, I don't mean the kind you eat. Austria has some of the best pastries in the world. But,
yes.
What's a cookie in the digital world?
So basically, cookie is a line of code which is usually embedded in the website, and that allows to collect data from the users.
Well, now I went on the JENTIS site, and up pops a thing, a pop-up, and it immediately asked me, do I want to allow all cookies or only necessary cookies? Now, what's behind that? Why is it asking me this?
So basically, this so-called cookie pop-up or cookie banner, it is a requirement by European laws to request consent on specific setting or access to your personal device. And basically what is behind that is that certain cookies, like for example third-party cookies, they can only be set on your device with your consent. And only necessary cookies are those that collect data that is strictly necessary or technically necessary for functioning of the website.
Otherwise,
and that's why
it won't work. Yeah. Well, now let me ask you. I mean, why wouldn't I just say, well, only the necessary ones? Why you don't need? Why wouldn't I make that choice?
You mean why wouldn't you make the choice of all cookies against the only necessary cookies?
Right. And any user, why would they choose one or the other? Yeah.
Well, it depends. Basically, we never know what type of user you are because some users, they prefer to accept all of the cookies and then they basically give consent to various ways of being tracked on the internet. And sometimes some users like to be shown advertisement that is strictly tailored to their interests. On the other hand, there are some other users who are privacy aware or privacy concerned, and they do not want to be given any information about their interests or about any other data apart from strictly necessary.
Right. Now, why do companies want to collect data about us while we're looking at something on the website? I mean, there are after all, there are risks about it, and there's some bad things that can happen. But what are the good reasons that companies want to collect data?
Well, in the today's world, because all of the companies are doing business online, it is very difficult to understand what type of offer does this company need to bring to the market. And this data that is basically cookies or tracking technologies allow businesses to make decisions on what to offer to their consumers.
So it can both improve the product and also be more effective advertising for the
exactly.
product. While you're looking at, I mean, they're at your company's website, so presumably have some interest in having a good presentation. So that's kind of the good side of it. And I think what you're suggesting, if a person doesn't give consent, then their data can't really be fully used by the company, right?
Yes. So under European laws, which are quite different from American laws, but in principle the same, is that users or consumers, they have rights in connection with their data. And they have to decide, or they have the ability to decide, whether or not to share the data with the website owner. And by declining consent to use cookies, basically the user says, I don't want to share my data with you, the website provider.
Right, and that idea is certainly spreading in the United States. We have no U.S. federal law about it yet, but there are 12 states that have data codes, and so the compliance is. But what was, and I think from JENTIS's website, about 30% of data right now is blocked by people not giving consent, something like that.
Yes, there are different statistics, but basically about 30% of users do not give consent. So they decline consent, or they don't engage with the consent banner at all. And that is considered a non-consent.
You need consent expressly under
exactly.
GDPR. Yeah,
exactly. Right. You need express consent. But then there is another part of user data that is getting lost due to tracking prevention technologies.
Now that's where browsers like Firefox or
exactly
say, oh, go to us because we'll protect your privacy, and then that can play a blocker. And then you also have ad blockers. I mean, now users could buy an ad blocker. Some of them are provided free, and So I take it what's happening then is the companies that want to improve their product and have good presentation aren't getting a complete data set of the viewers. Is that what's happening?
Yes, and more than that, a lot of data, more than half of the data is being lost due to refusal to give consent or tracking prevention technologies. So basically, the business operates with about 40% of data, which is very little to make a good decision.
Well, it's a skewed data set, and so you're not going to get great. Well, now enter JENTIS. So how does JENTIS address this? What does it do?
We have started from the idea that businesses need very good quality of data. And then at the time of development of the product itself, that was directed at increasing the quality of data, it was in 2016, the GDPR came into play, and it started to regulate the way the data is being collected and processed. And that created a huge gap between what businesses can collect and what are they allowed to collect. So basically, we are addressing this gap. We allow businesses, we enable businesses to collect data that is good quality, and also is compliant with the given regulations, be it US regulations or European regulations or regulations in Japan. So basically, it's a very flexible tool that gives full control to the business owner on how to collect data and process data of its users.
Okay, now, unless there's an answer to this, and I know there is, that tells what the answer is. So you're saying it's really first-party data capture. In other words, the company that has the website that's actually collecting the information, but not in a way that can be traced back to the individual? Is that the essence of it?
Well, basically, we give the technical possibility for both right now. So using JENTIS, the business can configure the tool so that there is a third-party data collection at the client side, but also there is a first-party collection at the server side. So you can use these streams parallel, but we, of course, focus and we want to enable businesses to collect data first party without reliance on the third parties.
Yeah, and that creates, I think you call it a synthetic user. What is that? Explain it to the listeners.
Joe, I would like to make here a note, because our product is not based on the synthetic user technology. Synthetic user technology is an innovation that we are currently exploring. But basically what JENTIS as a software does is it gives a company a special code that it can install on its website, a record, and that code would enable the setting of only necessary cookies that would stream the data into the server of JENTIS, or that is also, you can say, it's a server of the business of our customer, where JENTIS acts as a data processor. So basically,
it's really JENTIS functioning as a processor, and tell me if I'm wrong, then it's basically for those who don't grant consent or are not allowing the full stream of data to be looked at, it's pseudonymizing the data. Is that what it's doing?
Basically, if we compare two ways online marketing is done today, one is through third-party cookies and another one is with first-party cookies. In this third-party cookie scenario, the first party that accesses the data of the consumer is the third party. And basically, then it shares the data with the business owner. In that
let me
scenario,
interrupt on that, because this is really very fundamental. And what we're seeing, and you've already told us, is kind of a phase out over time of third-party cookies, right? That's what's happening in the market, given what you've described. Okay, and so JENTIS helps enable then the first-party tracking to be both compliant and also to collect data about what's not being collected with consent. Is that the essence of it?
Yes, that's exactly the essence.
Well, that's a big shift, isn't it, in online marketing and for any company to understand, who's looking at its website and what they're interested in. Are they impressed? Are they getting off in 1 second saying, I don't want to look at the, So that's the essence of it. And you would say, would you, that this is compliant with the toughest data privacy laws in the world, those of the GDPR?
Yes. You see, Joe, in the third-party scenario, in the third-party cookie scenario, the businesses never had a degree of control that would allow them to comply with the law. In the first-party scenario, the business, because it gets the access to the user data first, it can really decide how to protect this data.
Yeah, so I can see a user who knows nothing about this say, wait a minute, I said I don't want you to track me, and you're doing it, but you're saying, well, not really. No, because we've pseudonymized and we're not sharing your data with people who you didn't say could have it. And this is really quite an interesting innovation. Just from a data privacy perspective, help us understand as we kind of wind up this really interesting exploration of how technology can be built to be data protective, really, which is what you're talking about. This kind of level, I would think, would allow, first of all, more accurate data set for companies to understand. I think you've made that point. You would agree with that? You'd have a more accurate understanding.
Yes, because, in the third-party cookie scenario, for example, the business does not decide which data it can collect, or it has a very participatory role in decision of what type of data it needs for the business. It works with the data it gets. But in the first-party tracking scenario, the business owner can really decide what exactly does it need in order to make good business decisions. So when we talk about first-party tracking, we really give control to the business owners to decide which data it can collect, for what reasons, and on which legal grounds.
Right, but I would also think, from a data privacy perspective, tell me if I'm wrong, I would think this would prevent data breaches. It would help a company prevent data breaches of data. One of your customers, and also make privacy kind of an advantage to companies, where your customers can say, we are data privacy-centric. What do you think of?
Definitely. Because there is less data transfers in the middle between the user and the business, of course, that mitigates the risks of data breaches. And because we give the control to the business owner to decide which data, on which basis, and for which purpose it needs to collect or it wants to collect from a user, then of course it gives more sense of control and more empowerment to the businesses to really build the relationship of trust with its users and really be aware of the needs and privacy culture of users it interacts with.
Well, I would think as people become more conscious of the need to control their own data and make decisions about it, and I think most people are these days, your statistics have proven this, that then the industry generally has to turn to more of a first-party tracking method that is still compliant with evolving and different data privacy laws all over the world.
Yes, definitely that's a trend, and it has been picked up by the industry first. So, for example, Mozilla has introduced anti-tracking policy some time ago. Apple is also using the tracking prevention technology within its browsers, and Google has been trying to build up the privacy sandbox that is directed at first-party tracking versus third-party tracking. And of course, on the other side, there is a regulator who is constantly monitoring and trying to strengthen the rights of single users.
And I think that's where the law's headed. We'll see. Laws are different around the world, but this is one of those, Mira, where it's really business and consciousness of the importance of data privacy that are driving innovation. It's not the regulators. It's really business, and then the regulators become aware of what's possible, where technology can really improve data privacy rather than be a threat to it. Is that a fair summary?
I totally agree with you, Joe. I think regulator is usually in the reactive mode in that sense, and
right.
But I think the ultimate technology driver is the user.
The user, all of us. Well, Mira,
Yes.
Thank you for joining us on this journey. And as always, I will conclude, dear listeners, by reminding us all protecting your personal data privacy starts with you.